Hey everybody, this is Dan coming to you from Japan. I would say live, but not really because it's being recorded. And say with me, I have my man Joe, who's got his finger on the pulse of the Ergo community.
I like to try anyway. It's getting busy though. It's hard to track. I mean, we're getting into NFTs today, and that community is growing a lot. We have a lot of new artists coming on board. Today we have Quokka from Sky Harbor, and we have everybody's favorite gnomerizer, Foeniculum. So I'm happy to talk to him today, see what's happening in that side of the space. That's something that I try to track. I'm not always the best at staying up to date and understanding what's happening, but there's a lot that's going on. So Crypto Quokka, I can pronounce. Okay, I can say it. Okay, Quokka. Okay, I still have to ask you what exactly that means, but at least I can say it. But I'm sorry, man. Ergnomes, yes, Ergnomes. But whenever I see your name and it's unique enough for me to always know that it's you, but my mind does a phone. So how do can you please teach me just how to say it right? How am I supposed to say it?
Of course. Okay, so I'll teach a little trick. So Foeniculum is Latin for fennel. So just think about fennel, how you pronounce fennel, then you pronounce Foeniculum.
I remember.
There you go. Easy peasy.
Oh, Latin. Oh, okay. So Foeniculum. So it's funny. It's like it's fun. Foeniculum.
Yeah, I guess you can
fun?
say that. It should be Foeniculum, but I like Foeniculum as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I always like to have a special way of pronouncing things. You know, just my own. So I'll call you Foeniculum, like fun. It's always fun. It's always fun to see your work. Yeah, it's always fun to see your work. It's always fun to see, some. Actually, I really like that the thing you did with a certain dog meme coin personage. That thing that's pretty cool. Actually, I have one of those. I'm ashamed to say I do have one of those. What did you call them? Broskis, schmoskis? What
Close enough. Gnomeskis. Yes. I'm glad you're ashamed because that was the goal. Every Gnomeski holder should be proud and ashamed at the same time. That's very on brand for Gnomes.
Well, great to have you. Now let's move on to our friend with the awesome bookshelf and the awesome guitar. I didn't even notice that. That's a nice guitar you got there.
All for show. I can barely play.
Oh, for show.
Hi, I'm Quokka. Thanks for having me on.
Wait, so I'm pronouncing that wrong. I kept saying Quokka.
I've heard Australians say Quokka, so that's probably more right than Quokka. But, it's just however you say it, man. I hear people say quack. It kind of sounds like guac, and I like that, so.
Like guac.
Yeah.
I like guac.
I didn't put too much thought into my name. It's the cutest damn animal you'll ever see, though.
So Joe, look, you know that I'm a new guy in this ecosystem, okay? I've been in the ecosystem, officially, in it for a few months.
Yeah.
So, what is your perception of this awesome growth that we've seen? Is it just me, or has the Ergo NFT community just exploded in the past few months?
It started with the auction house. Unreal came out with that around Christmas in 2020. That was kind of a new thing. NFTs weren't really that big of a deal. At that point, you could get an NFT for 50 cents. And, you had a couple of popular ones come through, and then, Ergnomes came on the scene, and that really changed things for us. So, I have to really give my respect to that project. They built the first drop that was kind of like the vending machine style. And the auction house, it really opened the door. It's something that's still being improved. It's certainly not perfect. It has issues with, let's just say, fake NFTs, the right-click save post. And that has actually injured some people, which I'm not too happy about. We tried to create some ways of identifying, NFTs. I know they're working on identity and collections and trying to basically patch that issue. But then Sky Harbor came along and, they're offering an alternative, which it's something that protects people from being injured, ideally. That's sometimes decentralization in practice can be like the wild, wild west. And when you get into the governance of that, it's just complex. It's hard not to, have, let's say, group consensus in a community can be a difficult thing to achieve. How do you know who's who? How do you know, who's just there for kind of the cash grab, or perhaps, let's just say even trying to port somebody else's stuff. It's a complicated space. It opens a lot of really big questions, not only in terms of fraud, but, then you have, let's say, audio NFTs. That's a potentially big space, but, where are the legal guardrails and how do you enforce them in a decentralized community? You get into a lot of complexity really quick. And, that's something I don't have the answers to, but I'm certainly curious watching how things develop. It's something I can just learn and observe.
Well, with decentralization, just like with a true democracy, right? You have to have a very, very, very specific governance system around that, because in a true democracy, you have something that's referred to as tyranny of the majority, which is basically, in a real democracy, if you can have mob rule, for example. Yeah. That is possible if you just have a true democracy. True decentralization can be the same way. It could actually be a bad thing.
Sure.
It could be a place where people are not given the opportunities that they want to have, that are legitimate asks. They can be put in a situation where they are forced into all these things because they want to stay within the ecosystem, and they're forced by this the majority consensus into something they don't believe in, or they're forced out of the ecosystem because of this. And this is something that's not good. We cannot have that. So that's why we do need to have very, very specific governance mechanisms within a decentralized system to really protect the purity of it. I actually have I deal in the background when I'm not entertaining you guys with with my giant head and Leo over here that's on my lap at all times. I do quite a bit of business for Ergo, just calling people, setting things up, bothering Joe at all hours of the night, like whatever. He doesn't sleep. He just parties with bears. I'm constantly coming across people who just don't understand decentralization. They just don't. They think there's like one guy. So who should I talk to? Okay, so who's running the show? Nobody. The community's running the show. It's decentralized. People just don't get it yet. And that is because we're so early in true decentralized governance. Now, let's move a little closer to NFTs. I would like to hear your opinions, your thoughts about the less fun and the more serious parts. For example, what are your thoughts on NFT anti-counterfeiting? For example, if an artist issues a song, if an artist issues a piece of art, right, and it is tokenized, what protections do you see that are necessary for that particular piece of art to be taken as a piece of art and not just, a right-click save or copy paste into my iPod type of situation? Why don't you go first, Mr. Foeniculum?
That's a tough one because, for example, I remember Louis Vatra, one of the most popular probably Ergnomes, who created this anti-counterfeit tool that was implemented in the auction house that basically warned people who were about to bid on an NFT that had already been minted in the past by a different address. So obviously that helped a lot with NFTs that were being stolen, but that had already been minted on Ergo. However, finding something that actually helps against counterfeits that were stolen from, let's say, OpenSea, that's a much tougher one because probably Quokka, who's got a computer science background, he can probably answer this better. But as far as I know, the only way to avoid that from happening would be to create a tool that can scan literally every single NFT in any other marketplace and make sure that a duplicate isn't being minted on Ergo in this case specifically. And that seems like an extreme amount of work. So the risk of running into the risk of running into counterfeits is always going to be there. So just like in any other investments, especially in crypto, I think that it all comes down to investors themselves, in this case, collectors, to do their research and actually make sure that there is an entity, there is someone, there is a team, there is an artist behind that NFT that's actually active in that chain specifically. So NFTs are not only these random JPEG you find on a marketplace, you like it and you pay for it. No, there is someone behind it. And the link between that someone and you as a collector is important also to avoid running into counterfeits, other than 100 other reasons, such as fostering a good community, a healthy community around the project, which then the community itself is going to help against counterfeits and making sure that more and more people enter the community in a safe way without running into counterfeits. But that's obviously my opinion as an artist and with a very limited knowledge of the technology behind how to recognize counterfeits. So I think that Quokka can probably cover the more techie area in this field.
I wish I could bring more tech into it, but you're right. Building a tool that can find any previously minted NFT, that would probably work, but it'd have flaws. I honestly think the best solution is community, and the fact that you can somebody else spots like an issue, they do their own research, or you do your own research, and then you spread it through the community to say what's a scam, what's not worth it, stuff like that. That's how we're working with Sky Harbor right now. We verify projects, but we take a lot of community input on these projects and collections. Yeah. So you think that so Quokka, you think that community is the biggest part, the key to this whole riddle, or do you think it's just a small part and there's something else? I mean, is that what is your true feeling? I mean, with Sky Harbor, you said it's community verification basically. So how do you avoid, for example, and I've been in situations like this, right? There's also been this kind of a mob effect, right? Somebody said scam, and then everybody else joined in. Oh, it's a scam! It's a scam! It's a scam! And it's not a scam. How do you avoid something like that? That's a hard one. I mean, if there's proof that it's a scam, we obviously delist it, but everything, I think everything would need enough proof. I really don't have an answer for that though. Because it will be the mob mentality in the end that wins in that scenario.
Yeah, for myself, right? So it took me a little while to get into NFTs. I knew what they were. In fact, I was thinking about the business use case for NFTs a while back. Actually, one of the first times I was really talking about it was I had a meeting with FIFA back in 2018, and I was trying to talk to them about tokenization of different parts of their brand, as well as a team, a soccer team, a football team in Georgia, the country, not the state. So back then, it still wasn't this huge thing because it really blew up a couple of years ago, right? but this is a couple of years before it blew up. And so I was always aware of NFTs, but I was still not really into the whole NFT, like, groove. Hey man, check out my NFTs, check out my my gnome skis, man. It's pretty cool. It's got like the gnomes and the skis. And yeah, I wasn't there. Now I am, and I'm selective about what I pick. The what?
I said there's no coming back now. You're there, Dan.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, and you should be selective. You really should. Like you have to pick. It's an investment for a lot of people, and like the issue with I guess a decentralized. I don't even want to call Ergo Auction House is decentralized. Sky Harbor, I would consider it also being decentralized because we also use smart contracts. It's just the front end that's kind of centralized that we kind of control. But in the future, we're going to have unverified collections, so that's going to be out of the way. But you should do your research, especially on something like Ergo Auctions, because there's too many fakes there. There's just way too many. Like, you have to. Yeah. It's a must.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because when I just entered the space and I bought my first NFTs, when I started talking to people about it, they kept talking about, oh, the community is awesome. Like, what community for the NFT? Like, what do you talk about? I was like, what do you talk about in an ape society community, or what do you talk about in a Kongs community? What do you talk about in a Ergnomes community? It's not that it's hard to pronounce. It's just it's early in the morning.
It's all community. That's what NFTs are. It's like
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That is it. Once I got in there, I saw that, it's NFTs, but there's also other things. And if the project is legit, right? If the project is legit, there's going to be things beyond just the NFT. There's going to be a roadmap. There's going to be other, like, say, for example, one of the NFT projects that I bought NFTs from, they're doing a DAO, they're doing their own project, like project financing, basically raising money, crowdfunding for project financing. So all these different really cool things that are being developed for using NFTs, and you have this cool art. And so what I want to hear, Joe, what do you think about that? What do you think about just as far as Ergo goes, right? What do you think about using NFTs as an entry point for kind of expanding a project? Because I don't know, there are good ways of doing it, but there's also a lot of just cash grabs out there.
Yeah, there's always that.
What do you think about that?
Welcome to crypto. There's always cash grabs, Listen, in terms of watching this whole process unfold, it's been fascinating. We had this open source auction house that came out. We didn't really, the core team didn't really know what to think, to be honest. It was just something that we could build, so we built it. Then we had Fo come along, and we had kind of the drop, which was kind of the next, let's say, technical, evolution of NFTs on Ergo. Then, it was in time, the auction house in and of itself has been wonderful, but it has also been a roadblock. When people lose their money, that hurts, especially like small investors that are trying to, perhaps take on a lot of risk and get ahead and not check guardrails. That's hurt some people. So, I know that Hazy, one of the developers, worked with, Fo on the actual vending machine, and it being that's kind of a space they've had their feet in, they wanted to build something that was better. And to be honest, I think a big part of decentralization starts locally, to where people have choices. So ultimately, if the ecosystem can give people multiple choices, then it's, they have the power to choose. They're not basically locked into one system or one paradigm. So I'm glad to see competition. I think that the auction house will improve because of Sky Harbor. And, hopefully as we get, multiple solutions out there, then it becomes just the user's choice of, where they buy from, and the artist's choice of where they mint from. And, ultimately it moves back to the individual to choose what they do. So I'm happy to see the growth of this. And, you know, NFTs, in my opinion, like the one thing that I've always been curious, like when will this happen? You know, if you look at ticketing, that's basically an NFT, right? But if you have the ability to sell a ticket and then perhaps use a smart contract or something to mark that, okay, the ticket has been read or the person's, you know, entered the venue. You also have the ability to airdrop and connect with your community clientele in perpetuity. That's huge. You know, as like a small artist or musician or something, if you have the ability to have some contact with everybody who's ever been to your show without even knowing their identity, that's massive marketing potential right there and brand growth potential. So I'm really curious to see where it goes. I'm not the guy that's going to build it, but I like watching. See what happens.
What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about just building utility? How do we promote the paradigm of utility being part a necessary and intricate part of NFTs going forward? Like, for example, what Joe said, I think it would be huge to have you know, utility attached, utility like ticketing, for example, attached to an NFT. I also think that more utility, like actually using NFTs for authentication, for what I call, you know, I mean, I call it, you know, chain to reality or B2R, blockchain to reality, which is where you can use an NFT to manipulate things in the real world. You know, open doors. You know, trigger things, trigger events, right? How do we make that an intricate part? And what do you think is a realistic utility for NFTs just beyond the art aspect of it? Let's start with Mr. Quokka. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think one of the first things to be tokenized is art, and that's why it's all community right now. Because, yeah, it's art is pretty much the main thing that's tokenized. But I think in the future, once we actually have more use cases, once these utility tokens are actually created, that's going to be like where a large chunk of the market cap in NFTs will be. And when I think about tokenization of like real life things, of utility things like tickets and stuff, I think of property as well, tokenized property. I think of tokenized luxury items like wristwatches, proof of ownership of wristwatches. And like, yeah, tickets and stuff like that. And I do think that the future of every NFT marketplace, including Sky Harbor, is probably going to be involved with utility tokens more in the future than it will be art. But it's just art is like, it's one of the, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just the easiest to tokenize.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing wrong with tokenizing art. I think it's a great way to really take it into the 21st century, take things and really have a true use case for the blockchain in this. You know, I really love that aspect of it, but also some of it is just, you know, some of it is just bullshit, right? Some of it is, it's not art. I mean, you can say it's art, but I mean, I guess to each their own, right? One man's bullshit is another man's art. But come on, we all know that there's quite a few NFT projects out there that are just like, the hell is this?
It's all the same. I'll be honest. There's a lot where it's like, oh, it's the same as that one and that one and that one and that one, just a different color hat. You know,
it could be the shittiest project in existence, but if it's got the community, if it's got the following behind it, it's gonna shoot up in price.
That's one thing I've always liked about Ergnomes is, you know, there's nothing else like it.
Thanks for that. And I wanted to add the reason why Ergnomes doesn't want to follow all the other NFT projects kind of like, you know, structure is because when Ergnomes was born, one of the reasons why I wanted to create Ergnomes was also for it to become a marketing tool for Ergo. So for it to become a marketing tool for Ergo, it needs to be versatile. It needs to represent different aspects of the community, of the team behind Ergo and of how Ergo is changing and all the tools that are being built on top of it. So Ergnomes has been growing along with Ergo. The art, the concepts, the characters themselves, and that's on that. I have no words to describe how proud I feel for what I've built with Ergnomes, because it's beautiful to see the two projects, Ergnomes and Ergo, grow together. And the team behind Ergnomes was built very like in a very genuine way, because I was looking for developers. Hedzi had another one called Hamdangler, who then left. They were all interested in this idea of creating a solid NFT project on Ergo, and they asked if they could help. So, just it goes to show how easy it is for artists, for developers to create their own projects with the tools that Ergo actually offers. Back then, when I started, the tool that I used myself was Ergo Auction House. What then Hedzi and Ed used was what they found on GitHub to build the vending machine and the minting machine. And I don't know, it was just beautiful to see. And to conclude this, I want to point out that art NFTs can have utility as well. For example, marketing utility, because people are gonna want to show off their NFTs, and they're gonna say, "Oh, this is on Ergo." And if the NFT itself represents something that's already on Ergo, such as the personification of an Ergo developer or an Ergo tool, ErgoDApp, then it's going to be much more representative of what the ecosystem is offering, and it's going to be much easier for the collector to create some sort of bond with the NFT. And I feel like that's going to foster a healthy community that's going to feel even more encouraged to promote Ergo as a whole and not just the NFT project itself.
So I have a question for both of you.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind. My question is, let's say I had art skills, which is questionable, and I wanted to get into the NFT space. What advice would you have for me? Now, obviously, in the blockchain space, there is a tendency for there to be some type of gatekeeping and or people that are like established and have some reputation that really have the ability to like pump or build new projects. How do you manage that as a new artist coming into this space from the cold?
I think the main thing is, first of all, focus on having fun. You need to enjoy what you're doing, because if people see the passion that you're putting into what you're doing, then they're going to be naturally drawn to what you're offering. So instead of pushing collections and focusing on, making a certain amount of money by a specific month, for example, then I feel like new artists should just focus on marketing the art in a way that creates a connection with the customers. For example, artists like Bro On Chain and Gladcon, they explain, for example, what's the story behind what they've made, and they also show the person behind the art, and that obviously creates a stronger bond between the artist and the potential collectors. And as long as you do it in a way that's, again, very personal, very friendly, very easygoing, instead of pushing some sort of marketing campaign, then I feel like that the new artist would be, it would be a good start for new artists.
What do you think, Quokka?
Yeah, I'd say start small. Don't do like 1,000 drop. You come out of nowhere and you start selling 1,000. I think the good part about Ergo is that the community is small, so a lot of smaller artists can come in and kind of not get lost in the waves of like Ethereum. There's millions of Ethereum projects. So Ergo, it's easier to get noticed if you're smaller. And also, Ergo is growing, and you will be growing with Ergo if you start here. So it's like a nice exponential growth to your own growth. But yeah, like definitely start small, do something you like, do something interesting, maybe a little different, something unique. And just try to like communicate with your followers. Don't be like above them, don't think you're too good for them. Got to interact. And social media is important. That's what community is, that's not what community is, but it's good to like, you can't just drop a collection out of nowhere on Sky Harbor or just drop some random new NFTs on Ergo Auction House and hope somebody buys them. You have to get the word out. You actually have to like talk about it and tweet about it or Reddit about it or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on a really, a really important point for me, and it is how to interact with the community. And also, Fo also touched on a really important point for me, and that is how to organically promote your project and not shill your project. I would never buy an NFT that somebody just randomly shills, spams a comment section of a non sequitur tweet on a non sequitur tweet. I just don't understand that kind of stuff, and I think that's really counterproductive. I mean, look, if you did spend time on this project, you should really amplify your personal touch to it, not just try to shill it and to dump it and to play the game of numbers. If I just spam the stuff enough, I'll get enough people to buy it. That's bullshit, and also engagement with the community. I mean, I'm just okay. Well, I'll just give you my personal view on things. I'm not, I don't want to consider myself an influencer. I'm not. I'm just some dude who spends a bunch of time and more time on social media than I should. I have my own views of things, and I really appreciate people engaging with me about these things on Twitter and on social media. And I see people do this all the time. I see people, they get something like over 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers. They stop actually interacting with the community, and they start kind of issuing press releases into the social media. They think they're such hot shit that they don't really have to interact with people. They just send messages into the ether. And I think that it's very important for NFT communities, if you are in fact using social media for NFT promotion, NFT community promotion, you interact with your community, no matter how big it gets. Of course, you can't interact with everybody if your community is like 50,000, 100,000, even 20,000. It's difficult. Right now for me, I have something like a little over 10,000 followers on Twitter. It gets difficult sometimes when you get a tweet, and a lot of people comment on it, but I always try to interact with everybody. If they have something to say to me, I will interact with them. I think it's important because that's the only way you can actually understand what people are thinking. So yeah, I think it's very important. It's very important not to forget to be just to be humble. And by the way, Fo, I love it that you don't shill your stuff. I love it. Okay, please. Your stuff is cool enough. Never ever shill it, please, ever. I don't want to see any spam in my comment section. It's like, yo, check out this new Ergnomes drop that I just made. Yeah, first 1,000 mints get a free whatever ski. Yeah, don't do that. Your art is great.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sure you would. I'm sure you wouldn't, but and the same for Sky Harbor. I mean, you guys are. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's crucial. That's why I picked you guys. Well, you were one of the guys that I picked at Ergo Hack, because I think that what you're doing is fantastic. That's what we need. We need those scale projects on Ergo.
To build off what Fo was saying, I think Fo and Ergnomes and Sky Harbor are so important to Ergo, because Fo said that NFTs, like artwork NFTs, are a great like marketing and media tool as well. Like they do have utility. I agree. And I think that like the greatest promotion and marketing for a blockchain is NFTs. And that's what we're focusing right now. If we can bring over a bunch of people. It's because NFTs are easy to understand. They're simple. You buy a picture,
Right,
you sell
right,
it for more.
absolutely.
So if we can bring a ton of people onto Ergo with these NFTs, and we're working on making the collection creation process, like the NFT creation process easier, so more artists can be onboarded. And I'll get into that later. But if we can get all this on, start selling cool artwork, getting more people on board, and then they start seeing the other cool stuff that Ergo has, they'll be sucked in. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do see it now that the right type of NFT and NFT community will pull more people into the ecosystem of the blockchain that it's being minted on, just simply because it's an easy sell. You can see it, you can hold it hold it in your wallet. So it's quantifiable, for people, because that's also something that we're internally kind of always been trying to mull over about how to really promote Ergo. Because, we go out there, we just buy $1 million worth of advertising, and we have Ergo at the Super Bowl, and we have Ergo at whatever the like Shibuya Station or something. What is that going to do? People are going to say, "Oh, cool, cool logo. What do they do? They're a blockchain. Oh, okay, like Bitcoin, sort of. Oh, cool." It has to be targeted. It has to be quantifiable. That just like any kind of marketing has to be quantifiable. You cannot just, especially with a concept like blockchain, with a concept like decentralized governance, you can't just explain it with one image. You have to have an entry point for somebody to come in and want to explore. And when they explore, then you can give them the information that they need to really understand what it's all about. The concept of just in general, just the blockchain, cryptocurrencies, but mostly blockchain, is so foreign to so many people, even smart people. And we really have to kind of create connections. I tell them about Cardano. Cardano is one of the largest blockchains in the world, right? Which is what we're going to make Ergo. And just give me a little bit of time. Give us a little bit of time. But Cardano, one of the largest blockchains in the world, I basically saw and helped it grow from nothing. And still, you go to somebody and you talk to them about Cardano, and they're like, "The what? Blockchain? Like, Bitcoin? Yeah. Like Bitcoin, but not Bitcoin." Oh, okay. This is a conversation I have quite often. So we have an artist, somebody who wants to create an NFT project. Right? They want to come in on Ergo. How do we incentivize them? How do we bring them into the ecosystem? How do we kind of, what is our onboarding procedure for somebody wanting to create?
That's actually a really good question long term, right? Especially as the space gets more full. Like Ergo is still a small pond, right? But if you look at something like, Ethereum OpenSea, how many people will make an NFT that will never sell? And then it's like, okay, well, if we really want to build tools that, lower the barrier of entry and bring people into the space, what can we do to have, whether it's like organizations or tools or marketing groups or things that, try to separate talent from, cash grabs and quality from, let's say, just random shit. And how do we do that as a community? I don't know, but I'd love to see, that happen to where, if you have, let's say, the alternative foe that comes into Ergo 3 years from now, and he has his own quirky little project, how is he going to be known? How is he going to get help? How is he going to use these tools to succeed? I think long term, that's something that hopefully we get an artist community that, pulls new people in and helps promote quality and talent. That kind of goes back to the community aspect, I think.
Personally, I think that one of the things that is going to help new artists a lot, and it's going to attract new artists as well, is what Sky Harbor is working on right now, which is creating some sort of launchpad and minting machine that's going to help all the artists who are not tech savvy. So that's going to open up to, It's going to allow all the people like myself to launch their collection and let the market decide what's worth buying and what isn't, without worrying too much about finding developers, front end, back end, and everything. Again, what Sky Harbor is working on is going to be game changing for sure.
Yeah, to answer that question is there really is no tooling right now. There's the Ergo auction house where you can mint one NFT at a time and then auction it off, but that's not too useful for a lot of people. Sky Harbor is working on a launch pad where you can mint hundreds, tens, hundreds, or thousands of NFTs and then sell them, vending machine style. But this is kind of the start of utility NFTs as well, because you'd be able to implement metadata into the NFTs and then use them for whatever reason you would use them for. But that would be the start. That'd be the tooling. That's why we call it a launch pad, is so we can have artists come on, mint their NFTs and start selling them immediately, without any friction. The whole point of Sky Harbor is so that it's completely frictionless NFTs, and we're trying to make it as good as any other NFT marketplace. And like you said, like, who knows about blockchain? What is Cardano? Well, the whole point of Sky Harbor and I guess other dApps is to make sure that the user is using the blockchain without it feeling like they're using the blockchain. And that's what we're trying to do with Sky Harbor. They just buy, sell NFTs. They can mint without even thinking about anything development wise. And we'll also be able to have vending machine offers for your own website. Like we'll give you like an address that people will send money to, and then you can put that on your own site rather than selling directly on Sky Harbor. We'll also have marketplace data. So I guess that's more for the technical people, but you can import that into your own project and then make it easier to view your own NFTs that way.
One of the neatest things I've seen so far in the NFT space actually came from the Cardano community. I think it was a NFT maker or minter or something, where you had the ability to submit NFTs for sale without actually minting it. And then if you had a buyer, you pay the mint price and then distribute the cost.
Lazy minting.
It was like,
the
potential anyway to come into the space anonymously and, not have any overhead. Is that something that you guys would consider looking into?
We'll definitely look into that. We haven't thought about that yet. We just want to get the minter out and then the vending machine right now. But yeah, Ethereum has that as well, I think, and Polygon, where it's called lazy minting, where it only mints when somebody buys. But yeah, we're definitely looking into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're talking about NFT maker and then Patrick Tobler. That's the guy that's behind that. And it's great. What kind of makes me feel like an old fart, but you got all these guys in their 20s, still in school, doing all this amazing stuff. He actually, Patrick, minted something like 250,000 NFTs by and this was a figure from a couple of months ago. It's probably more now. And this guy, I think he's still in school. And I mean, you guys don't look like you're ready to collect your pension or anything. You're pretty young, and you got all these great things happening. I mean, I wish that my .com days instead of the .com days I was like now, but it was back in 2000 when I was like your age. God, I'm old. Anyway, it's just great to see all of these people who, in the normal circumstance would just be sitting around in their parents' basement smoking pot right now, only like 20, 30 years ago, are now going out and doing all these great things with the help of decentralized governance, with the help of community.
Whose library do you think this is? This is my mom's basement right here.
Oh.
Anyway,
you are actually in your mom's basement. Well, your mom's basement is really nice. Okay,
thank you. I'll let her know.
Kudos. Yeah. It's is that her guitar? Can she jam?
No, it's not. But I'll try to get a recording. Hopefully, we can get that in for Ergo Pulse.
Let's move on to the future, right? So let's start with Fo. Where do you see yourself and your projects going from here? And say, being in a few years, right? Not necessarily 5, but like say 3, for example, because I really think that if we keep going in this direction, the way Ergo is going, in a couple of years, it's only going to take us a few years to really blow up. I mean, really blow up. I think that we're going to be in the top 10, top 15 block of all the blockchains for ecosystem development, for NFTs, for technological development, tools, things like that. All these different ways that you can actually truly are a great measure of the success of a project, which is basically its utilization by the global audience. I think that it is quite possible for us. It is very doable for us to be there, to be in the top 10, top 15 of the world of blockchain in a few years. So where do you see yourself and your project in that world, Fo? What do you think?
I think that the objective of Ergnomes and the future of Ergnomes is the same as it's always been since I first created it, which is it aims to grow along with Ergo. It aims to tell the story of how Ergo is growing and all the characters behind it that are helping Ergo become what Ergo is right now and what it's going to be in the future. So as new tools are being built, as new developers joining, as new board members of the Ergo Foundation joining, then Ergonome is going to evolve with them, is going to represent them, is going to immortalize them in the Ergonome history. So the objective is, for example, in 3 years from now, newcomers and old Ergonomes as well, they're going to look at Ergonomes and say, they've been here all along. If you look at Ergonomes, you can basically see how Ergo evolved. For example, if you look at the Ergo hack gnomes, you can see the kind of themes that Ergo hack covered. Or you can see the kind of projects that were being built and that were personified as gnomes. So again, Ergnomes is very, very close to Ergo. It's not a random NFT project that wants to build a community based on, I don't know, because it's got cool animals that do cool things. No, it's going to attract Ergonauts who feel very strongly about Ergo. And it's going to attract newcomers who are interested in seeing how the Ergo ecosystem has grown so far and how it's going to change shape in the future.
That's why I love Ergnomes.
So basically, Ergnomes would be kind of like the roadmap, the visual history of Ergo's evolution. Right, so that's basically what you're looking for for your project to be. That's amazing. So Quokka, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, for the future of Sky Harbor, I think Ergo's obviously going to be one of the top chains in the future, or else I wouldn't be here. And that conviction is strong in me as a dev because we're working in the space, we're working with the tools provided for us, and it's just blowing us away every time. I really do think Sky Harbor is going to be one of the top marketplaces, and it's not because I have a big head or an ego. It's because of the functionality Ergo offers. Building these smart contracts and these scripts are super simple. Where probably a couple months from now, we'll probably have more features than OpenSea does, or JPEG.store, because we can build these smart contracts easily, and they're super secure. So in the future, obviously, we'll have the NFT launchpad to build that up. We could see a lot more marketplace data, built out, and probably, tax stuff as well. But we'll also have like P2P collateralized NFT loans. We already have like an idea of the smart contracts for that. We're having like bid offers where you can like offer for X amount of ERG for a specific NFT, and they can accept it or deny it. And we already have SigUSD contracts on our site. You can buy and sell using non-KYC USD. And I don't think a lot of NFT marketplaces has that. I will say not a lot of people use it, but we did it just to do it, just to flex, just to show that we can do it. And we can do that with other tokens as well, like Wrap Data, Anita BTC, pretty much any token on the Ergo blockchain. So I think there's a lot of big things to come, and I'm excited for it.
Well, Joe, how about you kind of give us a good wrap up of obviously you are, a giant, a pillar of the ecosystem, a monolith, if I may say so myself. And so, where do you see this whole thing heading in a few years when we are there where we want to be? And I really think that we're never going to be where we want to be, because once we get there, we're going to want more and more and more and more, and that's natural. Just like with Cardano, everybody's like, "Oh my God, Cardano! Oh, it's so great!" But you still have a majority saying we're early. Cardano is still early. The same with Ergo. When you get to the size of Cardano, when we get there, and we will, we're still going to say that we're early, because there's going to just open up so many more opportunities for us, and give us such much wider perspective on what is possible. So what do you think, Joe? Where do you see Ergo being in 2 to 3 years when we are as big as the Cardanos of the world?
To be honest, I don't actually want to be the one that determines that. And that comes across strange, right? Because everyone has a tendency to say, this blockchain has this mission. And in my opinion, the best thing the Ergo Foundation can push for is an open ecosystem. And so what does that mean? It means that we push for open source frameworks, and sometimes people will use them. Sometimes people will build private frameworks. Sometimes there will be a transition. I know that, that was an issue in our community, and some people made drama about it. Like, my solution to that was I called Quokka. I was like, "Hey, buddy, let's have a phone call and discuss what's happening and what the future is," instead of, trying to start a fire and just make drama, which, okay, it's like the Twitter spaces of the world loves that. But, in my opinion, I want to be neutral. I want to say, okay, what's going on? Try to understand and help when where I can. So what will the future look like with, Ergo? It depends who comes and builds. And like, what I want to do is I want to try to say, okay, well, what is possible? How can I support tooling to support, developers to build what is possible? What kind of research, development can we do to make sure that things make sense, where we plug them in? Who knows? Maybe, NFTs, like if you get into ticketing, right? Maybe that's better on a layer 2. I don't know. Maybe we have some sort of storage layer that comes around that's kind of like the Ergo specific, interplanetary file system. And, we have some sort of sidechain that hosts these NFTs. I don't actually know. But what I do know is that there are a ton of people out there with great ideas. And, what we can do is just act to support them. And with Sky Harbor, I think you guys have great ideas. You're solving a problem, in my opinion. Like having scams, out in the wild and having new users get burnt is fucked up. It's fucked up. I don't like seeing that. So I was happy you guys came out with a solution that at least will, solve that problem. Now, hopefully it pushes Auction House and their team. I know they're already working on,
I think we're already pushing them. Yeah.
So then as a user, you have a choice, which, more power locally. You can choose across marketplaces. That's what I would like to push for, is options.
Well, for any thriving NFT marketplace, it's good to have, or a thriving NFT ecosystem, it's good to have an auction house, like a solid auction house to sell. So I really do hope they improve it and release those changes that they mentioned earlier. And I want to quickly say we will open our smart contracts eventually. And I do think us opening our smart contracts when we do, because not a lot of NFT marketplaces actually open their smart contracts. I know JPEG.store hasn't and CNFT.io haven't. But I think like once Ergo NFTs are bigger, and once we release our smart contracts, we might put some pressure on them, especially if there's wrapped NFTs at that time too. That's another thing I think is going to happen soon, is wrapped NFTs. And hopefully Sky Harbor will be the one to bring those. But the Rosen Bridge would help a lot. So I want to see MHS Sam's implementation of that before we do anything. with
It's in
that.
progress.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too, actually, to use for my own, serious devices.
Non-tedious plans. No,
Yeah.
I can't be the one that makes the rules for how the ecosystem develops. I don't want to be. I don't want to be the police. That was what I told Quokka in our call. I was like, hey, what's happening? Why? And I listened, understand their logic.
Thank you
And
so much.
some people will build open source. Some people will build closed source. Some people will have a transition between. I'm not the police. What I want to do is I want to build tools so that people can build what works for them. And hopefully they build things that work for them and protect users. That's like the ideal. So, if things are closed and you're actually preventing people from getting scammed, I support that. That's something that I was never happy about, watching within the Ergo NFT space, because it's painful. I have people emailing me like, hey, I've mined Ergo for 6 months and I just lost it all buying a fake thing. And it was like, shit, that sucks.
Yeah.
What we can do to protect users, I think that's best practices. And when you get into like, what is decentralization? That's really a complicated problem. You can look at it from an open source perspective. Sometimes you have developers that are like, singular to the foundation of a project, where if they disappear, the project is done. It's just removing single points of failure. So having redundancy, I support. I think that the best use for these, this technology is to create systems that allow people an opportunity not to be controlled. That's the whole point of decentralization. So what does that come with? Options, understanding trust assumptions, understanding security on a network layer. And, if you guys have been around in the ecosystem and you've kind of built your own reputation, even if you're private, I think that says a lot. You know what I mean? So,
well, guys, I think it's about that time for us to call it a wrap. It was great to have you guys on. It's great to actually, see you and not associate you with Gnome and Quokka avatars, because in my mind, if your avatar is a gnome, you're a gnome to me. That's who you are. You can have a voice, you're still a gnome.
Well, you know what? I'm old enough in the ecosystem to remember the fruit sloths. That was I believe, the first.
I remember those.
Yeah, they were an experiment. I was like, let's see how these NFTs work. And then when I saw people bidding on them, I was like, all right, there is demand for NFTs. Let me build something more solid.
I love that you did the same thing for Sky Harbor. Like, you started off Sky Harbor with the slots as well.
Wanted to stay on brand and baptize Sky Harbor in the same way I baptized the Ergo shop.
You'll have to show Dan those. It's like a sloth hugging a fruit, basically. And that was his first NFT. It's classic.
Wow. Now. That's very very trippy-ish. Anyway, I'd love to see that. Well, guys, really thank you for coming on the show. It was amazing to have you. Thank you for giving your perspectives on all these different NFT and non-NFT related subjects. Really looking forward to seeing what you come up with next, Mr. Foe and Sky Harbor. You guys have my support as well. Joe, would you like to kind of give us any last words? Any words of inspiration?
Sure. I think that competition in the ecosystem is good, but sometimes competition becomes toxic, and that's something we should always look to avoid. That would be my close.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thank you very much for having for taking the time. Yep, that's right. No bullshit. We're Ergo, the no bullshit blockchain. Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for coming on the show. It was great to have you. We hope that we'll see you again soon. And yeah, this is Dan from Japan signing off.
Have a good one.